The ballroom glistened with golden chandeliers, crystal glasses clinking as the city's wealthiest gathered for the charity gala of the year. It was the kind of place where old money met new, where fortunes were flaunted with diamond necklaces, tailored suits, and whispered deals worth billions. Among the crowd stood Daniel Carter, a tall, impeccably dressed black CEO whose company had just reached global recognition. His rise was nothing short of extraordinary. From growing up in a working-class neighborhood to now leading one of the fastest-growing tech firms in America, Daniel had built everything through determination, sleepless nights, and a refusal to quit. Tonight, he wasn't just another guest. He was the keynote speaker, the man everyone wanted to meet. Yet, as he stood near the dessert table, trying to catch a quiet breath before his speech, fate decided to play a cruel trick. A shrill laugh rang out across the room. Vivian Harrington, the young white heiress to the Harrington fortune, sauntered over with a plate in her hand. Everyone in the city knew her name. Her family owned luxury hotels, private jets, and more land than some small countries. Vivian had been raised with power, but not humility. She lived for attention, adored the spotlight, and was notorious for mocking those she deemed beneath her. She eyed Daniel with a smirk, balancing a slice of rich chocolate cake. Well, Mr. Carter," she drawled loud enough for others to hear. "Quite the guest of honor tonight. Tell me, how does it feel to climb so high when we all know where you started? I mean, success must taste sweeter when it comes after struggle." Her tone carried venom hidden beneath a smile. Daniel, used to subtle insults in boardrooms, simply nodded. "Struggle teaches you strength," he replied calmly. But Vivian wasn't done. She tilted her head, pretending to look thoughtful. Then, with a laugh that silenced nearby conversations, she deliberately tipped the cake forward. The frosting smeared across Daniel's suit jacket, leaving a chocolate stain spreading down the expensive fabric. Gasps rippled through the room. Cameras from gossip reporters flashed. Vivian's laughter pierced the silence. "Oops," she said mockingly, her blue eyes glinting with mischief. "Guess even billionaires aren't safe from dessert disasters." Daniel stood frozen. Every eye in the ballroom was on him. Some guests looked horrified, others amused, while a few whispered eagerly, knowing the tabloids would feast on this. For a moment, humiliation threatened to break him. His chest tightened, heat rising to his face. Years of being underestimated, of being told he didn't belong, of having to prove himself 10 times over, it all boiled in that single instant. But instead of anger, Daniel inhaled deeply. He picked up a napkin, dabbed at his suit, and smiled faintly. "Accidents happen," he said, his voice steady. The calmness disarmed the crowd. Where most would have lashed out, Daniel's grace stood taller than the insult. People shifted uncomfortably, realizing Vivian's cruelty had been intentional. Still, Vivian waved it off. "Lighten up, darling," she said, already turning away to join her circle of wealthy friends. Daniel excused himself and left the ballroom briefly. He found a quiet corner backstage, where a staff member helped blot his suit. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, chocolate stains on a jacket worth thousands, and wondered, was this what they would remember? Not his accomplishments, not his company, but the moment he was made a fool of with a slice of cake. Minutes later, when he stepped back into the ballroom, whispers followed him. But Daniel walked with dignity. He knew why he was here, and no humiliation could erase his journey. As the evening progressed, it was time for the main event, the announcement of a $4 billion partnership deal between Daniel's company and the Harrington Empire. The contract had been months in the making, negotiated through endless meetings. It was supposed to be a historic collaboration, new money and old money joining forces. Vivian strutted onto the stage to make the announcement, still glowing with self-satisfaction. Daniel joined her, standing side by side before the crowd. She leaned toward the microphone, her voice dripping with triumph. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate innovation, partnership, and the future. The Harrington family is proud to join hands with Carter Global Tech in a deal worth." But before she could finish, Daniel raised his hand gently. "Excuse me," he said, his baritone voice filling the hall. The room quieted instantly. Cameras turned. Journalists leaned forward. Daniel took a breath. "Partnerships," he began, "are built not just on numbers, not just on contracts, but on respect. Mutual respect." His gaze moved across the audience, then landed firmly on Vivian. "And tonight, I was reminded that wealth, titles, and privilege mean nothing without humility. Because the way we treat people, whether they are family, strangers, or business partners, says far more about us than any dollar figure ever will. The crowd was silent. You could hear the clinking of a single glass in the back. Vivian's smirk faltered. Daniel straightened. With that said, Carter Global Tech will not be moving forward with this deal. Gasps exploded across the ballroom. Reporters rushed forward, pens scribbling furiously. Executives whispered in shock. A $4 billion contract, gone in a single sentence. Vivian's face drained of color. You can't be serious, she stammered. But Daniel didn't flinch. I am. He stepped back from the podium, offering the crowd a courteous nod. Good evening. And with that, he walked off stage. The ballroom erupted in chaos, guests buzzing with disbelief, phones lighting up with breaking news alerts. Vivian, frozen under the bright stage lights, looked smaller than she ever had before. For once, the attention she craved turned against her. Daniel slipped out quietly, ignoring the reporters chasing after him. Outside, the cool night air hit his skin. He loosened his tie, exhaling deeply. A black car pulled up, and his driver opened the door. As he settled into the seat, his phone buzzed with messages, board members, journalists, friends. But one stood out. A simple text from his mother. I saw what happened. Proud of you, son. Dignity always wins. Daniel smiled faintly, leaning back against the leather seat. The world would talk about the deal, the cake, the spectacle. But for him, it was never about money or pride. It was about knowing his worth, and never letting anyone strip that away. The city lights blurred past the window as the car drove away, leaving behind the glittering ballroom, the whispers, and a $4 billion deal that had ended not with a handshake, but with a stand. And in that quiet moment, Daniel Carter knew he had gained something far more valuable than any contract. Respect.